Hello, everyone. I'm Thor.
And I'm Annabelle.
Today, we're going to be talking about the protests that have been happening on college campuses across the country. Specifically, there have been a protest happening in Georgetown. Even there are politicians involved. So we're going to be taking a look at what's going on with that. What is this leading to something? Are we going to have another a summer of 69? Is this going to be another protest movement, or is this going to fizzle out? Is this a sign or a harbinger of deeper issues within the country? That's what Anna and myself are going to be discussing with you all today.
Thor, I find it very curious that the protest encampments all seem to have congruent tents provided. So I think it's very curious. I went to college myself, and I don't ever recall that we all had the same uniform for anything in particular. So I think it's very curious that these tents are all the same. I don't know if the universities are providing them or if some greater power is providing them. Now, I know that in your video on your channel, Thor Sandalwood, that you did say there's some dates that are going to be quite volatile in May. I know your predictions for April said that April was going to be kind of chaotic, but there are two dates that are happening in May that are very curious.
Yes. So many of you may be aware that there was a recent solar eclipse on April 8th. And this is basically the portal that opened up a lot of this stuff that is going on. So, for example, I think it was in days of the eclipse that there was the story of the whole Iran and Israel situation. There was the retaliation that took place there. And so that had happened. And within about 30 days to 90 days after an eclipse, we're in an extremely volatile window of energies that are taking place. I do feel that this is part of this larger protest movement because these volatile energies, they can be almost like a volcano. So they're just erupting people's emotions, their political fervor, and then we're seeing nations across the world engaged in conflict as well. Now, there's two dates that I want everyone to highlight in their calendars. I mean, this is the Psychic News Report, so we're trying to stay ahead of the news before the news gets here. So we're going to try to see if we can get some of these predictions spot on. But there's two dates that I'm really interested in. The first date is going to be May 18th, and that's going to be when Mars and Rahu come together in the sign of Gemini there. In the sign of Pisces. I had a brain freeze there. In the sign of Pisces, these planets are coming together. Mars is the planet that represents explosive events. It represents warfare. It represents conflict. It could represent erupting protests and things like that. So when Rahu and Mars get together, it's exaggerating all of that scenario. Not to mention Mars is the planet that just represents warfare in general. So we could see more escalatory conflict around the world around this time as well. The other date I want to give everybody is May 25th. And that's going to be when Mars crosses over the eclipse degree. So the eclipse happened at about 26 degrees of Pisces, and Mars is going to be going over that eclipse degree, and that's going to be another explosive date. So especially that week between the 18th and about the 26th is going to be very volatile. This could just be the tip of the iceberg with these protests that are going on as far as things happening in the country. There's other astrologers and other psychics that are thinking there could even be some events that are happening, negative events that could be happening within the homeland.
Yeah, we discussed that off camera, and that we'll look into. That may be too hot for YouTube, so we may have to look into that at a private event. Mm-hmm. But I think the kettle is about to whistle. College students, they're over the last few years, there's been some frustration with coming out of university, coming out of your college degree, having some issues. There's a lot of, and I don't want to make light of it, but there's some angst about that. So having some strong feelings about some events that are going on in the world, gives young people some agency over the world and their lives. This may be just the powder keg that some powers that may be need to kick off a summer of, what are we calling it? The summer of not so much love. You know,
Yes.
Thor and I are very curious to see what the milieu of summer 2024 is going to be. So will it be the summer of love or the summer of not so much love? So Thor, I'm going to pull up our card view here, and I'm just going to even us out so we have spacing, and I'm using just the standard Rider Waite, and I'm just going to read for the summer in the United States specifically, to see what kind of vibe we get and see if it jives with your chart. Oh boy. So I'm starting out with just a simple Celtic cross, and I get the 5 of Pentacles in the middle in reverse, and also the 2 of Cups in reverse. Now, for me, this is a coming together. I don't want to say a coalescence, but a communion, if you will, coming together to separate. So I think what we're going to see is a congealing, I'm using a lot of C words here, a congealing of emotion and feelings and specific wants. I think we're going to see that, but it's going to create a very firm dividing line between an us and them kind of mentality here. What this space I always call the suitcase space. It's what we have to go back in the past and either pack in our suitcase and bring with us to the future, or go in the past and unpack that suitcase and unburden ourselves. Here, this doesn't look good. It looks like everyone is really going to cleave to these defined ideas. You know, with the political climate that we have in the United States right now, there is very much a conservative and liberal approach. And I think the university students that are involved in this kind of protest action are really getting to the point where they're picking their side, and they're very firmly standing on their side. Personally, just for the sake of the country and having a university student myself, I would like to see this soften. I would like to have more of a softened approach to it, more of an open-minded approach. But it doesn't look like that's what we're doing. It looks like everyone's kind of doubling down on their opinions. Under the surface, there is no work to, this is my subconscious card, the, you know, what we don't see. Everyone's working to kind of undo the other systems. Up top, the anxiety about all of the situations is changing, but it's changing into something of rage. I do get intuitively that this is going to be a rage kind of situation. The anxiety, the unknowing, the wringing of the hands is going to turn into a clenching of the fists.
Summer of rage.
Yeah. This King of Wands in reverse is a tearing down. This is the king that destroys. This is a mentality that destroys. What's your opinion?
That is, you know, quite an alignment with what I'm seeing astrologically. The other thing I wanted to bring up with everyone watching is the United States is in this. Well, first of all, we're in an election year. I just forgot about that at the beginning of the video. So the polarization is, I mean, looking at the card spread, we got 2 of Swords, 2 of Cups. We're already seeing the polarization there, and you know, the polarization is going to increase throughout the summer as we approach the election in November. But astrologically, the United States is actually a period that's known as Sati Sati, which is a period of misfortune, actually. So it's a time when Saturn actually goes over the natal moon in someone's chart. So the USA chart, the moon is in the sign of Aquarius, and Saturn started transiting the sign of Aquarius back in January of 2023. It's going to continue till March of 2025. Obviously, it's going to be occurring during the summer of rage that we want to call it, maybe. We're kind of dubbing it. Plus, we have the eclipse and the Mars transit that we're talking about. You know, the Mars transit's really kicking off summer. It's happening, the dates again are May 18th and May 25th, but it's kind of kicking off summer, you know. I just had that song School's Out for Summer, but I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing with some of these energies that are coming into play.
I'm going to agree. And I'm all too familiar with Sati Sati. Those of you that are just starting to follow us, Thor is my Vedic astrologer. If you'd like to get a reading and your chart done by him, go to www.thorsandalwood.com. He's fantastic. He can guide you through your whole life. He is the navigator for you. But I myself am in Sati Sati, and so I know the challenges that are presented with that. So if this is the summer of rage, if we're seeing this kind of action, let's jump in and we'll pull some cards and we'll look a little bit closer at those two dates. The first one was May 18th, correct?
May 18th.
Let's just get the milieu of what May 18th is going to feel like. Well, Hangman in reverse, we're not learning from our lessons. And that Page of Wands is just like our King of Wands in reverse. We're undoing things. We're not doing things to build. We're not progressing, moving forward. Do you want to take a stab at the cards before I go off?
Sure. Before you go on a rant.
Yeah, before I go on a rant.
We just talked about that in our last episode with one of our co-members. So when I look at the cards, what's interesting is Hangman represents fate. It usually represents destined situations that are stuck energies. Hangman reverse can be like, okay, we're getting off the fence. So the people that have been in the middle ground, maybe the moderates, they're kind of getting off the front. They're getting off the fence, as I feel that polarization might be increasing. It might be harder and harder to find a moderate centralized person. Okay. Somebody that's just in the middle way. We're getting increased polarization there. The other thing I want to point out is you got the Seven of Swords reverse. Seven of Swords, whether it's upright or whether it's reversed, to me, there's always some sort of clandestine activity going on, things going on behind the scenes. With the Georgetown protest, with all the protests happening in the country, could there be actors behind the scenes? You mentioned the tents. The people have been seeing anomalies in these situations. Are there people behind the scenes organizing this, financing this? Are people trying to stoke the division? That's what we're talking about. Now, I'm trying to be as neutral as possible. I mean, could it be on both sides that they just want to find a hot button issue to get people divided about in the country right now? That's possible as well. Now, the star being in there, that kind of is a sign of hope.
Yeah, it is.
And, maybe this is representing that, maybe we're going to get through this time. Maybe we're letting some of the rage come out, discharge a little bit so we can enter that healing of what the star represents, the healing waters there.
Let's hope so. I'm hoping that this Seven of Swords in reverse is revelation of some of the machinations behind it, or if there's student leaders that are somewhat misled, hopefully that'll bring them to the surface and we'll be able to kind of correct that course. I am getting very much a Chad kind of feeling from this. Remember Chad, when we had that few summers ago, and that was supposed to be a summer of love, and it was peaceful protests with things that were on fire. I'm getting that some of the minds that are involved in this, and I am getting, intuitively, I'm getting a very youthful kind of mindset. So this is probably a student leader who's like, yeah, they did it at Chad, but we can do it better. We can make this ours. There's also something of a blueprint from the protest that happened on Wall Street. I can't quite remember the name of what
Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that rings a bell, by the way. So this is one thing we didn't talk about in this video, and we can definitely make another segment about this specifically because that goes into the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what's coming out of what's happening with the students, especially when we talk about Gen Z and the younger generations, is there's a lot of frustration, and we're talking about like Occupy Wall Street, with the cost of living crisis, the affordability of housing. A lot of people are leaving school in debt. with not really much job prospects going on right now, and not real, having to live with their parents into their 30s and 40s. And so the young generations, there's not a lot of hope at this moment, and so there's a lot of rage there as part of it. I mean, I know these protests are about what's going on in the Middle East specifically, but that other issue of this economic insecurity surrounding the students as well is probably helping foment some of this.
Absolutely. I think so too. Under the surface here, we've got that four of swords, but he's upright or he's in reverse. So that means that our man here is upright out and taking action now. Whether or not he thought long enough about what he needed to. And that's what the hangman is for me. The hangman is in repose. He's thinking about his actions, how they affect others, how they've affected the course of his life so far. But I'm seeing that there's a lot of action without thinking, a lot of doing and being fueled by this rage. That Page of Wands especially, they're very, very passionate, they're very excitable, they're very volatile. It's a flame that is uncontrolled. So
Kind of that act first, think later.
think later, exactly. So but in all honesty, Thor, how exciting to be a college student right now. And I'm not promoting that anyone should be doing that, but there is a lot to talk about politically. When I was in college, there wasn't a whole lot. We were kind of fat and happy in the early 90s. Everybody was kind of doing okay. There were some events, but for the most part, we were all doing pretty well. My fellow graduates were getting out. They were getting great jobs. They were getting great salaries. And they were moving toward adulthood. So I think now college students have a lot of different directions that they can go in. There's a lot of different things that they can be angry about. The cost of living crisis, the reality is college students come out. Some of them are $150,000 in debt. I can't even wrap my head around how you get on top of that when
you may not get a job with that debt either.
Yeah, and if you're being offered entry level between $60,000 and $80,000, the reality is you're just really going to have a hard climb. So, I do feel for some of these kids, even the ones that are coming out without debt. There's AI is taking over a lot of jobs. There's a lot to be concerned about with some of these young people. So I do completely understand.
What's interesting about the some of the astrological energies that are happening in this, since we're talking about the students and the financial insecurity that they're facing as well, and we could make another segment on this, but I'll touch on it slightly in this video, is that we're going through a financial system, essentially a slow change right now, because we're heading towards automation and AI. And what are all these people going to be doing for jobs in the future? They know that in the future, one of the biggest jobs in the United States is trucking. They know that the trucks are going to pretty much be self-driving trucks in the future. So that's one of the biggest employers in the whole country. Where are all the truckers going to go? Where all your fast food workers? I know I'm bringing up a service industry job. All that's going to be automated. You're just going to touch a touch screen, and the robot's going to make burgers, and it's going to pop out a little window for you. So again, where are all these young people going to be doing for jobs once they get out of school? This is a whole nother issue. We could even do a special segment on this, because that's a whole nother report.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So everyone comment down below if there are some topics that you would like us to cover in featurettes like this. I know, Thor and I, we have some job security, as psychics. I would rather go to a regular psychic or an astrologer than go to an AI model. Just saying, it's just my
go to the real human, not the AI.
So do we want to take a look at the second date as well? This really was that first date where we're going to see some action. We're going to see
18th is kind of like the trigger, I feel. And then we could see, that could be the beginning point. And then the 25th, with the Mars going over the eclipse degree, that could also show some things as well. And there's another big astrologer on YouTube that also mentioned some of these dates as well.
Oh boy. We got that 8 of Wands, 9 of Pentacles. That looks good. That looks good. 8 of Swords. That looks good too. Temperance in reverse. The Knight of Wands. Under the surface, we have the Ace of Wands, and the dominant energy is that Knight of Cups. So I think we will see a lot of emotions, a lot of different emotions about it, extremes of emotions. We're going to have people that are very, very upset and very, very happy. I think things will move very quickly, but I do think that the thinkers on this, the leaders of it, are going to be taken care of and put to the side. Incarcerated, perhaps, detained, perhaps, but I think that the thinkers are going to be put on the side. And I think that that hope card that we saw, the star card, I think we're going to get that. I think it's going to calm down, but this will be more of a formalized kind of heat and frustration. I think we're going to see a lot of loud voices. I don't think we're going to get balance here. The Temperance card is in reverse. I think we're still going to see people that have very, very strong opinions. I think there's going to be very loud voices in the press, out in the open. I think we're going to continue to see that. And this isn't the end of it. Just the arena is changing. So we're not going to be out on the street anymore. We're going to be more in three-piece suits inside buildings with marble floors, beautiful columns, not students that are dressed and tattooed and have colored hair, but more so people in suits and that kind of thing. So I think we're going to change venues on this. What's your feeling on it?
So it's interesting, but I feel like with Eight of Swords, well, we got the Eight of Wands there, which is, it's like this very powerful, fast moving energy, which I feel like very Martian. Okay. It's almost to me breaking. It's almost like we want to get out of that stuck energy in the Eight of Swords. We want to break free. Like we feel stuck. We feel like we're in a mental prison. We feel like maybe we're in a financial prison. Who knows what we're in? But I definitely feel, I don't feel this is the end. Actually, this might morph into something. Now, I know a lot of the college campuses, they're approaching the end of the semester, I believe. So I don't know how it could necessarily continue on the college campuses in the summer, but it might morph into something else, like we saw in 2020, where there were other protests that were happening inside of cities and things. There might be enough, because I see that temperance reverse. There's still that disharmony there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's still that people that are aggravated. So we could be seeing this morph into other movements. I won't name the movements because I don't know if I can say them on YouTube, but it might morph into other movements. And remember, this is an election year. So there's all types of players involved. There's all types of how can we turn the situation for whatever candidate. Okay. It's not, how can we spin this situation? But definitely the cost of living crisis, like just like we talked about in a moment. I mean, we got the Nine of Pentacles there. Whenever I see Pentacles, I feel like that's involved. So there's a lot of angst. Maybe and we could do a financial report as well later on, but maybe we're going to see that this cost of living crisis, I think the recent numbers is that inflation is still going up on on stuff, the most recent financial report. So we could see this student action on this specific issue, which is a global security kind of, they're protesting what's going on in the Middle East. This could morph into other things. People are not satisfied with, okay, what's happening domestically? There's all these problems domestically as well. People can't afford to live. And then there's these things going on abroad as well. So it's kind of like this big stew. We could call it the stew of discontent.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Not like delicious at all.
Yeah.
So I think we're in for it. I think we're going to see some interesting things coming during the month of May. This certainly is not over. Did you want to look at anything else, or do you want to wrap this up and we'll do part 2 later?
Yes, I think that we're good for now. And I hope that everyone, please comment down below. Let us know what you think. What's going to happen? Let us know. Give us ideas. what kind of videos you want to see. Do you want to see more financial analysis? Do you want to see more international analysis? Let us know in the comments down below.
Absolutely. And be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you do get alerts. Hit the bell, and you can come over and subscribe to Thor's channel, Thor Sandalwood, or mine, Fortune Cookies Tarot by Annabelle. And you can get other features and other readings over there. This channel is strictly going to be news and analysis with the psychic scope. So, and the astrologer scope. So not just psychic scope. So thank you everybody for watching. We're so glad you're a part of this journey. This is the beginning of it all. We're going to come back with some more stuff, but as always, we'll see you in the future.